affordable by the poor. He has one in Ipaja, he has one in Iperi. It was done in such a way that the people, there is a stage whereby we have a government that is a gargantuan monster that is fighting against the people. Now, for 7 days, there's a notice that commercial vehicles should not have to sit down with these people and start talking. Because the problem, they gave a notice. The notice was not fulfilled. They also gave a further notice. And then there is always mass movement in one direction. People who live in the country, we have not been able to develop those satellite places for the purposes of corruptible people. People who love their state, people who believe in the economy. If you go to satellite town, you see more people everywhere. If you go to Ijesha, people everywhere. Come everybody. We're not saying people should go. No, come here. There is the water there. The nerve center of Nigerian economy is Lagos. We are not saying if the land belongs to indigenous.
All right,
well, before we continue, you can actually YouTube, we're live on Facebook, we're live as well. Mainland 98.3 FM, search us out and transformed. Yeah, but the truth again is this: when you were talking, you talked about the fact that not just Lagos that is broke, the country is broke as it is right now. Economically, we're not in a good place. And ideas that you've been, preaching of ideas.
We have the highest IGR, and then we have the
it's the most indebted state in the country. Are you going to probe anybody and where you get the money from?
It doesn't take you leaving your phone to know that the Lagos State Internally Revenue Service (LRS) time some few more than a decade ago, those come on a regular basis and it is deducted from source. So for me, I believe that they have a better contract should not be of revenue that is going to a third-party company, remains in the state for the purpose of development, are seen to be single survivors. It is an interdependent that they took this loan, they are indebted. It's a question of how do you manage it. Like I told you about transportation, to go somewhere and we go and take a $1 billion loan, and which will not $1 billion loan, which we are not going to be able to pay back. What they did, remember recently, before the NSAS, there was this money we were paying. The one Osborne and Ikoyi paid 300-400, and when this to continue to traumatize our people. Me, I was part of the people that opposed that reintroduction of toll, and we succeeded, and that made me to realize that yes, the voice of the people is the voice of God. It was an access payment. It was not a daily payment. So if you pass that place 3 times, you pay 3 times. There's a multiplication. The downfall people were paying, everybody was paying, and the cost of a lot of time before you pay. There are times on Friday the traffic gridlock it's as far as Osborne. It's exactly the same gridlock in front. But since it has been removed, there's free flow of traffic. What we need to do, we have to be responsible. We have to look at a government that is proactive. It's not. We have to make any collection at all. We're going to do it the way manner that I earlier suggested, which is let us factor it into a system. And all our Lagos State is a state in the 90s. We are going to try to do that, and most of this is not in the hands of the clerk in the office. If you are a company that you want to build something like a refinery in a place of your own, because you are a private company, you are going to make money and you are going to take return. So you should have tax relief. That's what solved the problem of this Bagada Road. You remember, and continue to tax the people. We are going to sit. If you remember, there was a Lagos State trust fund that was established. During the multinational companies, they paid into that, and that was when you saw all these fashionable vehicles. If you remember in Lagos, I don't know how far you've been around Lagos. There was a time that there was a point you join a bus, you come into the city, and when you are going back, you join the bus that will take you back. We are going to make sure that you spend as little time as possible on the road. All these our service providers, we're going to discuss with them. We talk to MTN. So we're not going to sit back and begin to think of loan. We're going to use public, and we're going to try as much as possible again to make up for the shortfall in the hackness. I believe that we'll succeed.
Well, still talking about specifics, ladies, that was the era where we saw the mother and child hospitals built in different parts of Lagos, and people are still struggling to build a replica of Massey Street Children's Hospital.
When had the first-hand experience?
Right? As the benchmark place for you to start, you will discover that you need to put in place. Here is the acronym. 5 divisions. You have the manpower to do that. What you need now, all over America, or maybe an heart stent, you will be surprised about the level of sophistication they have wear out some of these machines. We are going to talk to them. We have Nigerian doctors in diaspora. We are going to hand what you are having in Nigeria now is not just building hospitals or building healthcare facilities. Solace, United Kingdom and other places as a haven for their employment. This must stop. This must stop. We must to be a nursing hostel there. I think it was about an story somebody.
But that property was donated to Lagos State, isn't it?
No, the issue there is that you see, you know, it's assets, accessible. Nurses will find them in those days trekking to the hospital. When they close, they're going to trek back. That hostel is no longer there. So what we need to do now is we have child mother. Because my mother was on the way to the hospital when she delivered me in the house. Many of my friends were born in Mercy. I lived on that road. Ella maternity there. But what we have discovered in our health sector is stifle growth. And that stifle growth cannot be avoided as long as we don't make the condition possible in medical. We need to now sit back and encourage our own doctors. If we will do what they did for the police during the time of BRF, we can have an such that we don't have to leave this country. Our president of Nigeria today is not at home. The man has gone from medical to medical tourism on a regular basis. We will continue to do this one, and only the rich and the wealthy and the mighty can leave the shores of this country and afford medical treatment abroad.
I think you will not forgive me if I don't ask this question.
You asked the question. No. Evening, the voice you've been hearing, that's Chief Kule Uthman, the governorship candidate, of Social Democratic Transportation. I know we're still going to opposition, but it's really on fire. At some point, I had to, put some measures in place. All right, but stay with us, and don't forget, I'm also live on YouTube and Facebook at Mainland 98.3 FM. So,
for people have said, well, I'd
said the architect of modern
Lagos. Still Lagos, the experience of Lagos, the model of Lagos, and it keeps, there's always this statement that look, it built the modern Lagos that we have now. What do you think about people who say, look, Asiwaju built the modern Lagos that we have now?
From when inception, when it was created, because the first governor of Lagos State was Brigadier General Mobolaji Johnson, and they were the ones. It was the team of that team that constructed the Third Mainland Bridge. They were also the ones that put in place the trade fair and other facilities. After him, when Rukbumba Latif Jakonde Baba was here, he did a wonderful job. So I don't know what that is all about. But let us assume we will discover that there's a disjointed growth in what has happened. His own could have been nothing but the conceptual part of it. Will be how many years did they spend there? After 8 years, it's the 8 years of Babatunde Fashola for me. And for most of us that live in this city, we know that those are the glorious years that we give to this quartet. The second term was a problem for the state. It showed the disjointed part. It showed a system whereby continuity was sacrificed. When it's calling from that quartet, I believe that we cannot start awarding quartet. So how can he be the father of modern Lagos? It was a good city, and what we now have now is not a good city. So I don't think it's sensible for anybody to believe that he built Lagos. If what he did in Lagos is what is going to replicate, and we know where we have found ourselves. We have found ourselves from the dollar stumbling from 220. Today we are buying dollar at 850. It's not even available. The money is not even there. So what is happening? We got this government that is about to call local. It was the one that put him Buhari there. If it was not for his own sagacity as a politician, Buhari would never have won. Invest in this coalition, and we have heard him also say, "I am the one that put him Buhari. If it's not for me, to put him there." Why are we here now? Because we have to hold the APC government also
to do the job. What do you say to do like that?
I'm not sure, but if evaluation to advise, and it was part of the thinking box of the government. The party. Even in the presidential election, we're going to see the party symbol. The horse is the symbol of the lack of performance of his predecessor in office. If we have to, can we look back and give ourselves that pat at the back and say this government has done well? a lot of burn office. There's no diesel. There's no light.
Security.
There's no. So why?
Okay, now that you've talked about, the party as it is now, does your party, the Social Democratic Party, what are different?
There was Lagos, and those IPBs were connected to some utility areas, the court, the hospital, the police college, and in those areas they never took life. And then we realized that this state is a peculiar state that has its own problem. But that is one of